Okay, so let's talk about the night of the blood moon. This is a dream that I had, and all this rapture talk made me think about it. So let's get into it. The dream takes place of me being at home in a room, sitting on my bed, right? But I knew in this dream I was aware of what was happening on a spiritual level, and I just knew my instructions were was to stay in my room. Do not go anywhere that night. Do not go with anybody, because this is the night where most people will be deceived, and this demonic force or entity was using familiar faces and your family members, your friends. And I had a friend that was at my house in a dream that this spirit was using, trying to lure me out. But the spirit of protection was saying, do not move, stay right here all night long, stay here until the next morning. So she came to my room, and here's another thing. In the dream, she never came in the room. Oh my goodness, I just thought about that. She never would come through that door. She would stand right at the door saying, hey, you coming out? You gonna come in here, come with me and do this and do that. But I knew on a spiritual level to act oblivious. So I was pretending. So I was like, oh, let me finish up doing what I gotta do. I got something to do, in my room, and moving stuff around, stuff like that. I knew to say that. Then she left and came right back. Once again, she would never come through the door. And she was like, well, oh, your family here. She kept making up different things. Your family's here. And I was like, what family? She was like, they're here. They're over here in the other room right here in the hallway. Now, however, I know in real life, there is no other room in my hallway. No other guest room or bedroom. The only things there is a bathroom. Okay? And I knew that. But however, this spirit did not know that I had gifts too, that I could see. I could actually see into that room spiritually. There were people in that room, but guess what? Those people were not my family, and we didn't even look alike. It was like a family having a get together, but it was not my family. And I knew from the spirit of protection saying, if you leave out of this room and go into that room, that other, room to see what's going on, you will be lost forever. Forever. It was like it was luring people into like a portal where they would actually disappear. Nobody would hear from them again. Okay. So in the dream, I came up with a solution, thinking fast. I said, oh, you know what you can do? Just go downstairs and call me on FaceTime. I'll talk to you while I finish doing what I'm doing. So that was another, distraction to get them away and just to prolong until the morning time came. So I knew to do that, to hold it off, because I knew I was never coming out of that room. So we called each other on FaceTime, and because that was another way I wanted the camera in there, because I wanted to see what was going on, what was in there, because I knew nobody was here. Nothing was happening in my home. So she calls me on FaceTime, but here's the thing. The camera was looking up at the ceiling. So I was like, hello, what you doing, girl? Like, talk to me. What's up? Just talk to me while I finish doing what I'm doing. She would never talk. Wouldn't say anything. So I'm looking, all I seen was blue, red, green lights up on the ceiling, just going around just like that. And in the dream, I was thinking, I said, man, it's some crazy stuff going on, but I'm about to sit right here. I ain't moving, because I was just trying to see what was going on in my, downstairs in my living room. Okay, so here's the thing. The next part of the dream was the morning time came. And then my grandma, called me, and she was like, what is all these people talking about on, TikTok, and people missing and disappear? And I said, Mama, last night was the night of the blood moon. But I knew that those people who left out their house, or, let's just say somebody, your family member called you, or your mama called you to come to her house for whatever reason, like it was normal, those people actually disappeared. But it wasn't a good thing. It wasn't God. It wasn't no Messiah. These people disappeared into like this place of no return, of this land of lost forever, like a like I said, like a portal. Nobody would ever hear from them again. This wasn't a good thing though. So, this rapture talk made me think about that dream. No, I do not think there is a rapture or anything coming. But however, I do believe that most people are being deceived. And the ones who are being deceived may be lost forever. And I will say this, and I'm going to close my message. When it comes down to a lot of believers, especially Christians, if anybody would be deceived by the Antichrist, it probably would be the body of Christ. Because let's just say if the rapture is a real thing, nobody knows the time or the return of the Messiah. That's the thing. And that's what the scriptures say. So for people to, sell their property, telling other people that here's a rapture coming, you probably would be more deceived than anybody. So that's why I always say a lot of religious people, Christian people really need to become more mature when it comes on a spiritual level, because I don't think that most of you are equipped for what they call the spiritual warfare, because a lot of people were being deceived that night of the blood moon. A lot of people, but the ones who knew better, they were already gifted in the spirit, or just discerning, or just mature, could hear from God. A lot of believers probably will be tricked by the Antichrist if all of this stuff lines up and everything is accurate from biblical. A lot of believers will probably be the ones. Because you should know better than that, the rapture, stuff like that. If anything, this is just my thought, not facts. If anything, what I think about people who was preparing for rapture, if anything, you were preparing to die, like your own personal death. Like you just made an agreement with death early. Like you preparing to leave. Like it's gonna be like a personal thing. Not everybody's not going with you. You probably just gonna end up dying. That's what I thought about that. But this dream about the blood moon, it just reminded me of the rapture talk, and people actually did disappear, but it wasn't a good thing though. They was in a dark world, a portal. It wasn't good. It wasn't godly. They were being deceived by familiar people. So, y'all tell me what y'all think.